When we deal with foreign clients, one of the first questions we are asked is how it is possible that in Italy, acting without any criminal intent could lead to a criminal investigation or even to a trial before a criminal court. A general answer to this more than legitimate question is that in Italy, the criminal law covers an area much broader than in other countries. Nonetheless, the law which governs the criminal responsibility for tax evasion is meant to punish only those taxpayers who act intentionally. Therefore, a breach of the tax law without any criminal intent shouldn't ever lead to a criminal charge. Unfortunately, it is not as simple as that. Provided that the material elements of a tax crime were committed, our case law tends to acknowledge a criminal intention in every deed which has produced some advantage for the taxpayer, which entails that a criminal investigation is unlikely to be prevented by defense arguments focusing only on the psychological element of a tax crime. Another reason why in Italy the rate of violations of the administrative tax law leading to a criminal investigation is so high is that criminal judges aren't bound by the outcome of the tax authorities' investigations and assessments. Criminal proceedings and administrative proceedings are indeed governed by a quite different set of rules and principles. For example, in administrative proceedings, the burden of proof can be fulfilled by the application of presumptions, which aren't binding for the criminal judges. Moreover, we must consider that in most cases, an investigation carried out by the tax police or the tax authority is at first aimed at assessing violations of the administrative tax law, and eventually it ends with the acknowledgement that the taxpayer may have committed a tax crime. In those cases, the police officers are obliged to report to the public prosecutor's office if they deem that the material elements of a crime were committed, whereas they aren't allowed to assess whether the taxpayer acted intentionally nor whether a criminal exemption has to be applied. Indeed, our case law and the tax police guidelines published in 2018 clearly provide that both the psychological element of the crime and the requisites for the application of the criminal exemptions must be assessed only by the judiciary. Despite the fact that criminal and administrative proceedings are formally autonomous, as a matter of fact they are also deeply intertwined. Therefore, an effective cooperation with the tax police and the tax authority during an administrative investigation could help prevent criminal charges and convictions. For example, the taxpayer could have the total amount of the unpaid taxes initially assessed by the tax police reduced under the thresholds fixed by the criminal law by settling an agreement with the tax authority. In these cases, it must be borne in mind that the criminal judge is not bound by the agreement itself, since he could deem that the initial assessment carried out by the tax police was the correct one, therefore convicting the taxpayer. That's why also the wording of a settlement agreement between the taxpayer and the tax authority is crucial in order to prevent future criminal charges. The more persuasive the agreement, also from the criminal law standpoint, the less likely a conviction. Another example of how criminal charges can be prevented by properly dealing with administrative investigations is given by the complex issue of distinguishing between tax fraud and tax avoidance. As long as the tax police and the tax authority are persuaded that an operation carried out by the taxpayer, although it had led to pay a lower amount of taxes, fails to fulfill the requisite of fraud, Being a mere fact of tax avoidance, they won't report to the public prosecutor. In any case, the evidence gathered during an administrative investigation sooner or later is likely to be filed with a public prosecutor too. That's why it is utterly recommendable to plan a defense strategy before the tax police and the tax authority, being aware also of the effects that that strategy could eventually have before a criminal court. It's a complex as well as crucial issue that will develop in next videos on our website. Thank you.